Uncle Ted. Good morning. Thank you for your time.
Can you see and hear me?
I can hear that beautiful background. I've seen that
Beautiful. But
before.
the effervescence of Uncle Ted, the spirit in digestible protein. How the hell are you doing there, Darren? I love the Cheap Trick shirt. I wish I had a Cheap Trick shirt, but I have Cheap Trick memories that you'll never be able to understand.
I figure they're one of the few bands that people.
Now tell me, Darren, that we're already starting because this is great dialogue.
Well, not only is it great dialogue, there's technically two photos of you on the wall. It's a little blurry, but there's a full Bluntal Nugent PR.
Darren, let's stop right there for a moment, shall we? Let's really analyze intellectually and honestly the song titles and the album titles that I've come up with. That alone deserves some kind of lifetime hunting license. Full Bluntal Nugent. Come on, you can't come up with shit like that if you're stoned. And how about Intensities in 10 Cities? Are you kidding me? How beautiful, taking a random historical health diagnosis and turning it into a sexy song. Come on, Wang Dang, Sweet Poontang, stop me when we get there. The new album, American Campfire, Detroit Muscle, Driving Blind, Where Have You Been All My... come on, if I wasn't me, I'd be my biggest fan.
Well, you just put it out there. Detroit Muscle album coming out in the spring. I've had the pleasure of hearing Come and Take It. Was Come and Take It one of the first songs written for this new album?
You know, I do a lot of interviews because somehow along the line, after 73 years of lighting my middle finger on fire, much to the pleasure and celebration of shit kickers everywhere, it's a gift. I am probed and interviewed constantly, and I really get a kick. I don't go back and watch or listen to my interviews, but because I've been clean and sober for 73 years, my radar really works good, and I'm able to register and compartmentalize. And remember that old TV show called Concentration, where you had to get the squares and remember?
Oh yeah.
My whole life is a game of concentration. I catalog and I file all this information. But to get to the bottom of Come and Take It, and Detroit Muscle, and Born in the Motor City, and American Campfire, the beautiful instrumental Winter, Spring, Summer, Fall. I have never in my life sat down, Darren, and as a music lover, you obviously are a music lover.
Yeah.
You have dynamic, emotional, fun, defiant, serious, completely non-serious musical mile markers in your life. I can tell if you're wearing a Cheap Trick shirt, I know I'm talking to the right guy because you're me. You're just not quite as outrageous. Anyway, my point being is that in a recent interview, to answer your question, because I know not that long ago there was an actual inquiry, a guy asked me, how do I write songs? And this question has surfaced many times because if you don't hate the Constitution, and if you don't hate freedom, if you don't hate rugged individualism, and if you don't hate people that critically think, because I'm all those things, and people that hate those critical quality of life mile markers, they hate me, and that's adorable. I can handle that, no problem. You Nagasaki, you Pearl Harbor me, I Nagasaki you, no problem. You come to Concord Bridge to take my guns, I'll shoot you in the face. Anyhow, it's a beautiful thing. It's like a ballet of love. Anyhow, I answered this question.
Ballet of Love. Write that one down. That is a definite Ted Nugent song title.
The ballet, believe me, last night Shemaine got out of the bathtub. It was a ballet of love. I did a pirouette.
By the way, I had the pleasure of interviewing Mrs. Nugent before.
How about it?
When she was putting out her book 4 or 5 years ago. So that's not the only Nugent in the world that makes headlines.
Are you kidding me? It's the only one that matters. But anyhow, my point being is that my headlines matter too. So I've never in my life, some of my songs, the Amboy Duke stuff, I'm 17 and I'm writing Flight of the Bird and Scottish Tea, these beautiful melodies that came from the guitar neck that I had no idea whatsoever what notes were legal in a given key, which is my gift, because you want to seek those illegal notes. Freddie King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eddie Van, the best notes in the world are not authorized. My point being is that when asked how I write songs, and if you go back to the Amboy Dukes and the Damn Yankees and the Ted Nugent Band and the collaborations I've done, even with Bon Jovi, boy, there's a pop star. I've never sat down in my life with a pad of paper and a pencil. So, honey, I'm going to write songs today. Never have I ever pursued songwriting, but I play this beautiful. Look at that girl behind me.
Well, you've always had the heavier guitars. I mean, the physically heavier guitars. I can't think of a prominent guitarist before you that did the Byrdlands,
No.
the Dot 335s. It's just you and George Harrison, really.
Well, I'll tell you, if you want to know the Byrdland history, certainly Roy Clark mastered it, even on Hee Haw. A lot of my country and Western friends think Hee Haw was a documentary. Hence the cartoon music they create. Anyhow, I digress, but I hate that country crap. Anyhow, Roy Clark, master of the Gibson Byrdland. The first album by Chuck Berry, I believe it was 1955.
Oh,
that was the prototype Byrdland. And Eric Clapton, I think when he played with George Harrison, he played a Gibson Byrdland, a blonde one, not as pretty as mine, but it had a Venetian round cutaway instead of the Florentine sharp cutaway. But now, here's the moment in time, which I have mastered every moment in time. 1960, my band, the Lourdes, we were on our way the next year to win the Michigan Battle of the Bands because we were outrageous. John Drake on vocals, Tom Noel on drums. We're talking 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. Pete Prim. Greg came later with the Amboy Dukes. Pete Prim on bass. John Finley on Gibson Firebird. We played with such ferocity, but we opened up for a band called Billy Lee and the Rivieras at the Walled Lake Casino, 1960. Before the Stones, before the Beatles, it was just the Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Little Richard, Motown fire that was already happening.
Right.
The blues, the black force of musical authority from our black founding fathers of the best music in the world. So we were just young, white, and dumb, but we already revered that inspiration. So we watched Billy Lee and the Rivieras. They were the headline. I wasn't sure who they were, but there was a brand new band from Detroit called Martha and the Vandellas that went on.
Oh, wow. Dancing in the Street. Yeah.
Yes, and Gene Pitney had a hit song called Ronnie Montrose did "Town Without Pity." Ronnie Montrose did a instrumental version of it. How about all this information? Is this awesome? But anyhow, follow me. I know I'm doing a monologue here, but it's worth it. Believe me, Darren.
I'm following. Believe you me.
So you're asking about the Byrdland. It's critical musical statement, capability. There was a guy on stage. It was Billy LeVice on lead vocal, Joe Kubrick on Gibson 335 Cherry through a Fender Twin, Earl Elliott on Rickenbacker bass through an Ampeg B18, Johnny
Bennett. A heavy, heavy instrument, the Rickenbacker bass per se.
Yes, Johnny
There's a lot of weight on that stage.
Johnny the B. Benagic, 15-year-olds on Ludwig drums, and Jimmy Long-Legged McCarty on a Gibson Byrdland through a Fender Twin amp. Darren, the musical wave, the force of unbelievable tightness and dynamic and virtuosity, but mostly fire and authority. So what am I, 13 maybe? Something like that. So I'm watching Jimmy McCarty, and I'm listening to this strum and the notes and the fire. This was before distortion, before any kind of pedals or anything. And
right.
So that band, Billy Lee and the Rivieras, changed their name a few years later to Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't make that connection.
Is this great? Is this a great history lesson? You love this. You need this. So anyhow, That was the Byrdland imprint. So from Lyle Gilman at the Roselle School of Music in 1965, my dogs love this story. I worked out a deal to trade in my Epiphone Casino because George Harrison played one, John Lennon played one, everybody played. Keith Richards played one, Brian Jones played one, so everybody had to have Epiphone Casino. But when I saw Jimmy McCarty, to this day I keep in touch with him. In fact, right to the right of me, Darren, is Jimmy McCarty's 1963 Fender twin reverb amp that I bought from him 2 years ago. My point is, the Gibson Byrdland, I don't know if you can even tell with the capabilities of this zoom, but there is a spread of tone. When I do these moments, get out of here. I don't know what it sounds like there, but in this room, I have a spiritual boner right now. My goosebumps have goosebumps, and they're pissed off. My point is, the Gibson Byrdland, it has...
Well, I'll tell you what I like about that. Not just the playing, not just the quality of the amp sound, but the way that you play, you can always hear the picking of the right hand.
This right hand, if I tell you right now, I don't know what kind of PG-13 rules you got. You got any PG-13 rules?
No, be Uncle Ted if
It's
you want to.
important for me to express this, and the only accurate way to be expressed with this wrist. If I jacked off, I'd pull my dick clean off. This wrist is so strong. This wrist, because you stop and think. I mean, stop and think of the licks. Get the hell out of here. This wrist, I'm telling you, if you put this in the water, it would make huge rooster tails behind whatever apparatus it was behind it.
Well, you've always liked the key of A. I dig that.
I love the key of A.
Yeah. You and Cheap Trick are big in the key of A, whereas a lot of your contemporaries, they would try and tune a step down. They would try and do E. I don't know if I'm getting too into the weeds there, but
well, this is important. I think music fans like to hear this minutia. I think I do a spirit campfire on YouTube and my Facebook and all kinds of electronic gonzo technology. But people are fascinated by that intricacy. The fact that I don't pick with the end of the pick, I pick with the round part, and the reason you hear the pick is because of the way I muffle the strings when I go. I'm not strumming open. I do it on occasion, but most of it is, which comes from Bo Diddley.
Hard to make you do a song in E there. You know, we broke the A into the E, but
Chicka. Yeah, but on the new album, there's a whole lot of F sharp. There's a song called Driving Blind that's a monster, and it's got that picka thing.
Sevens come out.
Just killer grinding, sexy damn music, man.
Well, along the lines of what we're talking about right now, early into the pandemic, I had the pleasure of watching one of your master classes that you did through David Fishoff and his team. And what I really liked about that is, having watched other great musicians do their classes, yours is totally different in that not only are you willing to take questions, not only do you have your guitar in your hand,
have to
remember everything.
Yes.
But you also went over the time limit. Most of the people, you see them watching, it's like 60 minutes, not you.
Darren, look up the word unbridled. It'll be a picture of me riding a middle finger into the sunset where I don't stop just because the sun is setting. You know, here's another reason why I antagonize people, which is so bizarre. I'm a happy son of a bitch. I'm so alive. I so love the music. I so love the adventure. People will think that, well, that's a limited area there between the nut and the tail. I mean, that's a small area. There's only so much adventure available. if you love it like I do, and name your favorite guitar players. I think of Stevie Ray Vaughan, Billy Gibbons, certainly.
I'm an Eddie Van Halen guy myself. Steve Vai.
Yes, the masters.
John.
They can't play enough. They are always searching for uncharted musical things. It doesn't even qualify as notes or patterns or melodies or it's things. It's abstract. The best way to describe it, I think I know Steve would, Eddie would agree. In fact, I know these guys. I jammed Brian May, I jammed Jimi Hendrix. Are you kidding me? I've jammed B.B. King. I've jammed with all the greatest. I'm getting on stage here with Tim Montana and his band. They learned Cat Scratch Fever in Abilene in a couple days. We're gonna have fun. But anyhow, my point is that music, especially the guitar, it's a martial art. It's you must pursue oneness with the aura, the ether, and you can't, I was about to say, where am I going? But if you ask where you're going, you'll never get there. You have to be so one with sound dreams. So I think when you see my master class, I think that's why people love it, because I love when you stated the obvious that I'm unlike anybody else. Nobody else does it like I do, because I'm clean and sober for 73 years. So everything works really good. And when everything works really good and you have a passion, you're gonna go nuts. And so I go nuts, whether it's bow hunting, whether it's this morning, I've already carried, I think 70 50-pound bags of custom feed that I filled all my feeders on my ranch. So I do a lot of physical work and fences and fixing trucks and crawling under trucks. So I'm a real physical guy. By the time I'm done with such raw, primal, physical self-sufficiency and independence, that's why I played some licks a moment ago. I've never played those licks before. Not my songs I have, but I went into a little movement.
Yeah.
As I approach my guitar every day, it's as raw as 11-year-old Ted trying to figure out Chuck Berry's licks. That is such a gift. I am so lucky that my goosebump arsenal hasn't even begun to be tapped.
You have so many phrases there that you should be writing down, like goosebump arsenal. Why aren't you writing that one down?
Everybody should have a goosebump arsenal, and you should milk spirit from that arsenal every day, and it will make everybody around you very happy, because the happier you are, the happier you can make people, family, friends, neighbors, my fellow Americans, people around the world. You go to my campfire, my spirit campfire, and I got people from Portugal and from Ireland and from Japan and of Germany and Sweden and Switzerland and Spain, and people come because outside, I was going to say outside of America, but probably outside of Texas, you're not even allowed to think like I live. I live such a free, uninhibited, primal, honest, independent, defiant, most important word of all. You're not allowed to be defiant in Switzerland. You have to be complacent. And not everybody, but you know what I mean? There's a burning Ted Nugent inside of everybody, and most places it's illegal to let him run. So I let that son of a bitch run every day, and he's a happy, happy boy.
Wow. I'm processing all those thoughts right there. One guitar question I've never heard addressed to you, and I brought this up in an interview I taped a couple of days ago with the bass player of the band Lit. Do you know the song by Lit called My Own Worst Enemy?
Great title, but no, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, it was a huge, huge hit in 99 to 2000, still getting thousands of spins a week all these years later.
Wow.
The opening riff to it, which is the famous riff, I always heard it and went, that is Free For All by Ted Nugent. Wow. And he said, I never heard that. I was wondering if that had ever struck your radar, but the answer is no.
Well, and again, what is Free For All? And again, when I sat down one day, I tuned my guitar, and my hands go. You will never find another human being, and there's people much more talented than me, but there is no one more uninhibited and primal and open stream of consciousness, out of body. And I know this Steve, and I know Eddie, I know all those guys. I worship them. Joe Bonamassa, he's got the touch. Derek St. Holmes, one of the most underrated
Yes.
guitarists on the planet. Ricky Medlock, Tommy Shaw, all my guys are monsters. But
Dave
when
Amato. Yeah.
Dave Amato, he's a monster. Top 1%. All the names we just listed, top 1% of monster gifted guitar virtuosos ever in history. But they will never just go like that. They just, I don't mean any disrespect. And whoever this Lick guy is, I think you don't even have to have heard Ted Nugent music, and probably, I'm going on a stretch here. You may get away with never hearing Chuck Berry, but your hands and your ears and your craving for grind and groove and rhythm and noise, you probably will find that on your own. Maybe not exactly like me or exactly like Chuck or exactly like Jimmy or exactly like anybody else, but you will hear things from artists that can honestly say, no, I've never heard that lick by Joe Perry, but I'm but well, it sounds just like his Walk This Way. Well, I've never heard it. It's so organic when you pick up the guitar to play certain things that it's conceivable that this guy's not lying. that his sexual urges ended up coming off of his instrument.
Well said. Eddie Van Halen's name has come up a few times, and there's a great story about you plugging into his rig backstage without him knowing, and you going, why doesn't it sound like that? And then ultimately realizing, because my hands are my hands and all that. Sammy Hagar has been a close friend of yours for years, per se. I've never heard you talk about David Lee Roth. Did you have interactions with him over the years?
I did a few times, but and I admire and praise his entertainment gifts. Monster. Tell me that all that David Lee Roth music with Van Halen isn't a smile eruption in our life. I mean, what a fun, cocky, soulful guy. I mean, really, he really does evoke, emulate, and deliver touches of James Brown and Wilson Pickett and some Motown melodious grunt, and certainly the blues and the gospel and the rhythm and blues masters. You can hear that in David Lee Roth. I don't think he's ever been given credit for those talents and those musical capabilities that I just mentioned. So I'm glad I just mentioned them, because they should be attributed to him, because he did deliver them with aplomb. But unfortunately, I've always been militantly against substance abuse. And it's an absolute crime, literally and figuratively. And David's a perfect example. And again, I love him. I hope he's happy. I hope he's healthy. He seems to know what happiness and health is. God bless him. Thank you, David, for enriching our lives with your incredible music. God bless you. But tragically, and this goes to Eddie too, and my encounters with Jimi Hendrix and so many people, you couldn't have a meaningful dialogue. It was all stoned disconnect. Whereas when I sat down with B.B. King, and when I sit down with a Joe Perry and a Steven Tyler, even though there were moments where it was hopeless, there were moments, and Sammy Hagar's the perfect example. We have a meaningful man-to-man, human-to-human, fun, deep bullshit session, because he's in tune with himself, and he's real good at getting out of tune with himself. But my point is, Darren, I think it's important to note that the incredible amount of hours that I've been honored and humbled to spend with some of the most powerful music authorities in the world, there was nothing to be shared because they were drunk or stoned. And all those moments reinforced my anger and hate for people who leave the world, to drop out, comfortably numb, No, but they don't make anybody happy they don't have to make happy. They don't owe me happiness. But wouldn't it have been great for a smart ass like David Lee Roth and a smart ass like Ted Nugent to discuss the art of smart ass? I mean, I would have loved to have that conversation, but there was no chance for it. The guy was out of his mind.
Well, one thing that always confused me about Roth per se is one of his big albums, Skyscraper, is him mountain climbing on the album cover. And he's known to do all these outdoor adventures, and he was an EMT. So what I'm getting at is highly physically active, mentally active guy, but always has the bottle of Jack Daniels in hand, or is talking about partying. So the thing is the partying a gimmick, or is it a gimmick part of the time? And because you can't be an outdoorsman and a partier.
Yeah, you can't climb a mountain.
Hungover.
You can't climb a mountain drunk or stoned, or you're dead. Here's more emphatic example than the David Lee Roth and the Eddie Van Halen. Again, who I worship. What gifted, special human beings.
Sure.
And we owe them for fortifying and enriching our lives with their art. And I will never take that away. Nobody could possibly do so. John Belushi. John and Aykroyd, they invited me to their private bar during the filming of The Blues Brothers, and who doesn't just genuflect at the altar of hysteria of John Belushi? Who doesn't want to hang with John Belushi and just get a stomachache from laughing so hard? Because you know he's always funny.
Yeah.
Well, they sent a car for me and my girlfriend when I sold out a couple nights at the Coliseum and whatever it was, the amphitheater in Chicago. 79? They were filming. And who doesn't want to meet a bunch of guys that get to wreck 1,000 police cars? So I was really eager to, because I'm a funny guy. I mean, if you don't have fun with me, you're weird. And I love humor. Richard Pryor's Afro Catching Fire was one of the greatest moments in my life. I mean, you made a whole career out of it. What a great moment. If you're going to be funny, you can't do that on purpose. Though he did. I'm laughing today, and he's dead. So anyhow, and I got to hang with Robin Williams and Sam Kinison and Rodney Dangerfield. So I've been in the vortex of humor in my life. So I couldn't wait to meet John. Darren, the limo pulls up to this little speakeasy that John and Dan bought, and I can't wait. Plus, they're huge James Brown fans and Booker T and the MGs. I think Steve and Duck Dunn were there. Steve Cropper and Duck Dunn. I think some of the monsters of Stax Volt were there, my heroes. So I'm like a kid getting ready to meet Santa Claus. Well, but I went in there. Everybody was so drunk and stoned, it was impossible to have anything remotely meaningful conversation. And John was actually at a desk that looked like an outtake from Scarface with a mountain of cocaine, and it's all over his face. And he's drooling and making, wounded pig noises. And you got the guitars and amps. They invited me, per se, to, quote, come jam. And I, being the fans, mutual fans of the gods of music, I'm all excited to beat hell. Well, what a letdown. And that night, once again, fortified my anger at substance abusers. Because what a great opportunity with geniuses of humor, geniuses of movie production, geniuses, professional work ethic, everything that makes a great man. They threw it all away to get comfortably numb, which, by the way, comfortably numb is actually uncomfortably dumb. Shame on you, uncomfortable numb nuts. I hate it. I really hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, people make their own decisions and have to deal with the consequences of their decisions. And some people are better than that than others. You're obviously very accepting of your choices and the consequences. So kudos to you. Do you have time for 2 questions or?
Yeah, go nuts, man, Darren. I love talking about my shit.
So one of my obsessions when I do interviews is Detroit.
Yes, Detroit.
And I'm speaking to one of the people who helped put Detroit on the map from a pop culture perspective, from a musical perspective and all that, because to me, Detroit is the most impactful music city on the world that people don't really put together. You know, punk came from Detroit. Hip hop has its foot in Detroit. Garage rock, Motown, it's all from there per se.
Hallelujah!
Now, comedy. Detroit is also a big comedy city.
I'm a funny man.
Mike Binder, etc. Per se, when did you realize that Detroit was so important and not just, hey, that's where I'm from per se? Because people tend to have a love-hate thing with where they're from. That's a bow.
I had to cleanse my soul for a moment there. Darren, boy, are you talking to the right guy. Because born in Detroit in 1948, when it was still considered the arsenal of democracy, we stopped making cars and trucks and started building bombers and howitzers to defeat the punk-ass Emperor Japanese and the Nazi devils. What beautiful, unambiguous good over evil was that? So that was an atmosphere of good over evil based on this Herculean work ethic, pride of productivity. The work ethic, it just glowed in the Motor City when I was born. And my dad pounded it home to all of us kids. You do your chores. By the time you can walk, you got to take out the trash. You got to wash dishes. You got to clean around the toilet. You got to replace the toilet paper. You got to shovel the dog shit. You work. You got to paint the fence. You got to cut the lawn. You got to rake the leaves. You got to shovel the snow. You got to pick up the limbs after a storm. So that work ethic was the foundation of what guided me to pursue this new electric guitar music that was just coming out shortly after. I mean, Les Paul had just electrified the guitar, 3 years before I was born, and now Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley have unleashed the beast. And you got the Ventures, and you eventually got even the Beach Boys were doing all the Chuck Berry ripoffs. But you had this electric music, Lonnie Mack, Dwayne Eddy. You had this electric sound that was so alluring, so stimulating. It was unprecedented in the history of music or sound. And this, somehow, no one will ever know why those planets aligned in Detroit, except that if you take the lives of Wayne Kramer, MC5, and Ted Nugent, born in 48, we didn't know each other. I had no idea there was a Wayne Kramer. I had no idea there was a Ted Nugent. But he was pummeled by the cravings of Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Lonnie Mack and Dwayne Eddy and the Ventures. So he started playing when he was a little boy, and I started playing when I was a little boy. We eventually went to the Capitol School of Music, unbeknownst to each other, and were taught by Joe Podorczyk, who just passed away this last year. Now, Wayne and I keep in touch, but whatever those forces of work ethic, which gives you a drive, I think, and I know there's a work ethic in Chicago. I know there's a work ethic in New York. I know there's a work ethic in California. I know there's work ethic everywhere.
Well, what you're saying, to pause you for 1 second, when I interviewed Greg Bissonette and Matt Bissonette, they were big proponents of talking about the Detroit, Michigan work ethic. So you're not the first one. You're not the only one.
And see, that because you can't deny it or ignore it. So take that drive, that discipline. All of our dads forced us to be productive members of the family. Perfect. Not to be confused with these punk-ass kids today wouldn't know which end of a hammer to hold. Crybabies, they get upset for the dumbest pussy-ass shit in the world. Anyhow, so there was a drive. Now you combine that discipline, focus, get the job done right with this new guitar stimuli, and Wayne Kramer, Greg, everybody, Mitch Ryder's band, Brownsville Station, Scott Richard Case,
Alice Cooper,
all of them. Grand Funk Railroad, that you combine that work ethic force, I mean a force, to the cravings of creating this music that Chuck and Bo and Little Richard just stabbed us with. I mean, Little Richard, there was a punk movement? I don't think so. You punks haven't come close to my Little Richard. Anyhow, so Wayne Kramer and I, and this touches base on my hatred for substance abuse. Because Wayne and I were kicking ass. Amboy Dukes, MC5, we were neck and neck. Sometimes they headline, sometimes Amboy Dukes headline. Then they started getting this prick, John Sinclair. He thought you had to do drugs to make good music. In fact, in John Sinclair's book, he said, everybody hated Ted Nugent. How can you trust a guy that won't get high? Anyhow, so John somehow pushed Sonic Smith and Dennis and Michael and Rob Tyner and Wayne Kramer. Darren, you have never listened to me make a sentence and had any confusion of what I was attempting to convey, have you?
I have not had that.
I'm colorful. I'm colorful and I'm articulate and I have a good grasp of the English language to dynamically express myself.
Yeah.
That being said, I am helpless to find words to adequately describe the power of the MC5. They had a 2-year window before the drugs destroyed them, where they were as tight as any James Brown band.
Yeah.
They were as emotional and defiant as any Little Richard song. They were as musical and authoritative as any Motown Funk Brothers. Do you realize what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're talking about James Jamerson and all the greats from that.
Oh.
I know what you're talking about, that level
And
of
the
greatness.
MC5 delivered it with a firestorm of energy and musical cohesiveness, while at the same time being dissonant and noise. It was like Coltrane meets the Funk Brothers, Sun Ra meets the Beatles, but then the drugs ruined them. And I was so angry. And Wayne went to prison.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I started a solo crop 40 million albums later. Wayne should have sold 40 million albums. He should have sold 140 million albums. But he was short-stopped by this bullshit lie called peer pressure and comfortable numb desires. I love Wayne. I keep in touch with Wayne. He's a great man.
He's doing great now. He's written a couple of books. He's making music. The MC50 tours do really well. So
awesome. So my point being is that the Detroit thing, now I'm going to bring it to a simple focus. What Billy Lee and the Rivieras did, it turned into Mitch Wright. Listen to the way that band plays their first hit called Jenny Take a Ride. My right hand on a Gibson Byrdland, no one on the planet can do what I'm about to do. And this was Jimmy McCarty. Think of the rhythmical power that this song had. CC Rider, come on, see, baby, what you have done now. If that doesn't make your car go faster, you're driving a Renault.
Yeah, the power of the 145, yes.
The answer to your question is why Detroit. Now, maybe Wayne won't articulate this, and I'm sure there's a lot of ingredients to the answer why Detroit was so and remains. Kid Rock, Eminem, I don't give a shit what you talk about. It remains volatile, unlike any place else in the world. I give the credit to Billy Lee and the Rivieras, Mitch Wright of the Detroit Wheels, Johnny Banancic on drums, who's my buddy. I keep in touch with him. He played on my Shut Up and Jam album. He is a monstrosity. Mitch Ryder, who I talked to last week. Jimmy McCarty, who I keep in touch with. I haven't kept in touch with Earl Elliott. In fact, he quit playing bass after a while, after the industry ruined them. And Joe Kubrick, I haven't kept in touch with him. But they delivered such a fiery, tight, musical force that I think whether it's Brownsville or Dick Wagner and the Frost, or Ted Nugent, or the Amboy Dukes, or Grand Funk Railroad, or whatever band you might talk about. Kid Rock might not even know this, but that's why he disciplines his band to be tight and meaningful, because Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels laid down a bar of musical authority that nobody else. Believe me, I talked about Stax Volt, I talked about Booker T, I talked about James Brown. You got all these monster musical forces in our lives, I'm so sorry that you couldn't have witnessed Mitch Ryder, the Detroit Wheels, and the MC5 at the Grandy Ballroom in 1967, because it'll be repeated tomorrow night at Tucker Hall in Waco, Texas, when I do what I call the Ted Nugent Greasy Speakeasy. And in 2022, when Greg Smith, the god of thunder bass, Jason Hartless, the god of thunder drums, when we go out on tour with the Detroit Muscle Record in 2022, anybody that missed out on all that original primal adventure of musical outrage, only I deliver it. I deliver it every song. I deliver it every night. I deliver it every guitar solo. Every song has a forehead vein popping crescendo, and I will deliver fire. You can cook marshmallows at 80 yards from the flames that come out of my ass every song. So I'm the only one who still who knows that. I have it in me. Nobody else who saw it, they were all stoned, so they didn't really grasp the dynamic. I cherish that dynamic, and that's fucking-Troit.
Well, before I let you go, when I had the pleasure of interviewing Mark Farner, I asked him a question about the old wrestler from Detroit, the Sheik, Ed Farhat.
Yes!
And he goes, "Oh, that's my wife's uncle."
No! It doesn't surprise me.
Were you ever in a room with Ed Farhat, the Sheik?
No, I don't think I was, but Dick the Bruiser, he had an important impact on my life. So
you and David Letterman both.
And I'm surprised I could even reference Dick the Bruiser, because that's one of those iconic wrestling creators, and the Sheik. But I've never watched that stuff. I get turned off by it because, with all due respect, it's so fucking hokey. Nobody gets worn out after being slammed within the first 12 seconds. You're not worn out yet. Get the fuck up, would you? But I do appreciate the showmanship and their dedication to athleticism, because some of the shit they pull off. There's a new series on Vice TV, The Dark Side of Wrestling, which breaks my heart, because I had to have my knees replaced because I'd never heard the word meniscus until the doctor said I don't have any anymore. And if someone would have told me, if you keep jumping off those amps every night, thousands of nights in a row, you're going to destroy your meniscus, I would have gone, what is meniscus? And they go, well, it's the buffer between your kneecap and your bones, and if you keep jumping, you're going to be crippled. I would have, well, then I'm going to stop jumping.
Right.
But I didn't feel any pain for the first 6,000 jumps. So I jumped off those amps, and those guys, they get the CTE.
Yeah.
And they get destroyed skeletons. And nothing in life is worth destroying your gifts from God. And so I know that I rode a buffalo on stage, and I swing from ropes, and I wear loincloths. I killed myself, and I shoot flaming arrows, because I learned that certain physical activities are emphatic and organic to my songs and the fire of my stage show. But it's all spontaneous. I never scripted anything. When I'm playing certain songs, your body has to do certain things. And so I would take it to the outrageous gonzo level, which is one of my favorite pursuits in life. And I would do those things. But now, at 73, I am so conscientious. Like this morning, I was hunting all morning, and coming up and down the stairs from one of my deer blinds, I told my ranch manager, I go, you got to put railings on here, because if I slip and fall, I'm going to break something. So I'm an old man, but I'm still very athletic. I'm very healthy. I'm very excitable. I don't know if you noticed that. But I tell all the young people that come to my master class on December 8th, the Ted Nugent Gonzo Master Class. Actually, I think we should call it the Whack Master Class. I explained that the ultimate musical delivery will come from deeper within, and the deeper within you are unleashing, the more raw and physical it will be, the physics of spirituality. So I really appreciate the people that come onto my Ted Nugent Spirit Campfire, that come to, you know, I got a website. People have been begging for these stupid hats. Come and take it, and I will not comply. And they can get these at tednugent.com. It's just, again, it's all spontaneous. The guy brought one and said, would you sign this? I went, yeah. And his buddy went, where can I get one of those? And I said, well, get one, I'll sign it. So I signed it. Well, 50,000 later, literally 50,000 hats later, I go into my sweatshop every morning and I sign hats. Once again, that's why this wrist is so dangerous. You don't ever want to be on the receiving end of this wrist. You will have no face if I come at you. It's like a buzzsaw.
Ted, Uncle Ted, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the many, many years of great music, and looking forward to seeing you live in New York in the very near future.
I can't wait. Now, thank you to everybody out there who still supports my greasy-ass Motown rhythm and blues, soul music, rock and roll. When it gets right down to it, Darren, I'm the world's biggest fan of fiery, soulful, intense music. And
Sure.
for all those people to have bought 40 million of my records and still come to my concerts as an old man, and I still dance pretty good for an old guy. I can't thank everybody enough, because I love the music. The Greg Smiths and the Jason Hartless and the Rob Grange and the Derek St. Holmes and the Tommy Shaw and the Michael Carter and Jack. I've been surrounded by such passionate, gifted, work ethic, musical monsters. That's why people love my music, because of the incredible talent that I'm surrounded with. Every record, every song, every concert. So a big salute to real music lovers everywhere. And thank you, Derek, for being a music lover and probing. I mean, people want to know what makes the music tick that they love. So thank you for that.
Well, as you said on a prior album, the music made you do it.
Yes, and it does. Oh yeah, the music made me do it. Now I'm going to do it to you. What a great song.
You did it. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and just keep up that greatness, Uncle Ted.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving every day. Happy Veterans Day every day. Happy Independence Day every day. Merry Christmas every day. Live it up, man. Rock and roll like you mean it.
Paltrocast.